Hafide Todesamzu, thank you for your participation in today's virtual informational roundtable briefing hearing. That's a mouthful. This virtual informational roundtable briefing hearing is convened by the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagåtña Revitalization, Self-Determination, and Regional Affairs. The committee attempted to reconvene DPR's oversight hearing last January. However, the DPR leadership has changed 6 times within the previous 5 months, and the committee has not been able to continue that oversight, though there were many attempts. And of course, there were the issues that we're all contending with regarding the COVID-19 and our different disruptions because of that. So, for the record, in accordance with the open government law, public hearing notices were given to all senators, stakeholders, and all main media broadcasting outlets, with the first notice issued on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020, and the second notice on Monday, July 20th, 2020. Today's virtual informational roundtable public notice is also posted on the legislature's website at www.guamlegislature.org. The time is now 5:15. This virtual informational roundtable briefing is now called to order. Saduas Maasi for your virtual attendance to this afternoon's hearing. Today's virtual informational roundtable briefing is the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagåtña Revitalization, Self-Determination, and Regional Affairs way for initiating informed public discussions with the new impaneled Board of Commissioners who have been invited, and we have some of the membership here, and the Acting Director and the Deputy Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation. The committee will focus on today's informational briefing discussions on DPR's management, operations, staffing, and a few other details related to performance. So joining me for this virtual informational roundtable briefing are, I'm very pleased to have Senator Regine Bisco-Lee and Senator Jim Moylan. Thank you both for taking the time to attend. The Department of Parks and Recreation is responsible for maintaining and managing all public parks, facilities, and activities within the territorial park system. So with the members of the Department of Parks and Recreation Commission, I would like to note that Christopher Duenas is here, and then we'll also be noting that I don't want to get it incorrect. I believe you are the swim coach. Mr. Flores, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself just to make sure that I have your title correct for the Manhoven swim team.
I'm one of the Manhoven swim coaches and a swim team parent. My name is Frank Flores.
Saduas Mahasi for being here, we're pleased to have quite a number of people here. Okay. Am I missing anyone else? I see somebody noted as Mike Guam. If you could introduce yourself as well.
Afternoon, everybody. My name's Dr. Mike Robgo. I'm one of the commission members for DPR.
Excellent. Saduas Maasi for being here as well. Yes, I guess we're all finding out a little bit about our handle names as we Zoom meeting and have our virtual hearings, but thank you so much for being here. Okay, very exciting that we're moving forward with an impaneled board and we're moving forward with an appointed acting director. So as I've said, thank you so much for joining me. Before we open discussions from participants of this virtual informational roundtable briefing, following the agenda made available at the virtual link provided on the committee's communication with confirmed hearing participants, I'd first like to provide some general rules of conduct for all those who are participating and in attendance. The conduct of this virtual informational briefing shall be as follows. All participants must abide by rules of conduct and quality assurance standards, including broadcasting from a quiet room with little to no interruptions. The use of virtual backgrounds is not permitted. Broadcasting from a room with adequate lighting, specifically to ensure that a participant's face is not backlit but visible at all times when speaking. Please ensure that you are unmuted and that you are speaking clearly into your microphone when you are called upon to speak. The chair will invite a nominee in the order listed on the agenda and then recognize individuals who have signed up to testify on the nominee. Individuals providing oral testimony shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name and title for record-keeping purposes. The order of questioning will begin with the panel of senators who shall complete their lines of questioning for each nominee. Each panel member will be allowed to pose one question and then be provided another round to ask necessary questions. Oral testimonies shall be confined to the substance and the character of the nominee. Motives of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this rule of conduct will result in removal from the virtual meeting room by the host. I ask that all participants keep their comments or testimony to within 5 minutes. Affide. The work of a board or commission member involves much volunteer time and commitment and provides an important link between the public and agency, the legislature, and the governor. Each board, we do have a couple of board members here, so each board is unique in its purpose, mission, and role. And it's especially important that we get to hear a little bit from you today. For many of you, myself included, it's your first time to perhaps be actively acting in that role, and my first time to be with you while you're actively acting in that role. So we're hoping to start with the introduction of the acting director, Roque Alcantara. And I'll go through a little bit of what was shared with us through the governor in a letter that she provided us just the other day. So let me go ahead and bring that information up as well. So in this first part, I just want to point out that on July 13th, we had sent the governor a letter urging her to appoint a permanent DPR director. It's been a situation where we have gone through the last several months. We have gone through 6 leadership changes, beginning with Mr. Ibanez, Mr. Lujan for a short while, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Birch, Mr. Garcia again, and now we have Mr. Alcantara. The committee held an oversight hearing, as I mentioned before, in January, and we have continued to move forward with our work, but being able to convene again as we are here today has been held up by COVID-19 related issues and that quick overturn of leadership. And so we are hoping that this is a permanent move forward and that we will be able to roll up our sleeves and get the work that needs to be done and all be able to move forward and really serve our community. So as I mentioned just the other day, we received a letter from the governor informing us of Mr. Alcantara's appointment, and that allowed us to begin to have this, well, we were going to have this informational hearing no matter what, because we can't continue to put things off. We just have to get the work done. So at this time, I wanted to give Mr. Alcantara an opportunity to introduce himself a bit. He does have local government, federal government, military, and private sector experience. And What I wanted to ask him was, for the benefit of the committee, that he could share how his varied experience will be able to help him in this particular position. We do have the Deputy Director here, Mr. Victor Villagomez. If you could speak a little bit about your capacity here at this meeting, at this informational briefing, and perhaps any words you might share about the acting director's experience.
Howdy, everybody. Thanks, Masi, for being here. On a personal level,
if you could start, sorry, if you could go ahead and start with your name and your position, just so we get it documented.
I'm sorry, Senator. Victor Villagomez, Deputy Director, Department of Parks and Recreation. I've actually known Mr. Alcantara for quite some time. I've actually I grew up playing baseball with his sons since I believe we were in elementary school back in the late 80s. This is going to be my first time working with him. As far as his background is concerned, when I had spoken to him, his line of work mostly consists of contractual work, scope of work, grant writing, and things of that sort. So that's going to be very vital to our department, because we're going to be getting with the upcoming CIP projects and moving forward with the pools and stuff like that. It's going to be very important and very good to have him with us. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, it's good to hear that you do know him. You've seen him participate in sports, specifically in baseball over the years, and that really speaks to, I think, the people that are involved. I think you have a baseball background, and a lot of our board members have swimming, surfing, paddling, basketball, and other backgrounds, which I think is important. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you have familiarity with the facilities, you have the familiarity with the needs of the community to utilize those facilities and the kind of upkeep and other considerations that are necessary. So I'm hoping that this is going to work well for the department. And part of what we're going to do is we're going to outline some of what we need to see come out of the DPR management, so that the structure is getting into place and DPR is getting what it needs to in place budget-wise, personnel-wise, and otherwise, so that as we're opening up, the community is continuing to be better and better served.
Understood.
What I want to also mention here is just that this department is a very large mandate. It's a large set of responsibilities. It's parks, it's beaches, it's recreational facilities, and those are precious resources for our people. We need order brought to them and to the management of them. We also need strategized approaches to change some of the ways that people are perceiving those facilities and places, and changing the behaviors and the way that they're interacting with them. And so I don't want people or the department itself just thinking about maintenance. They need to be thinking about all of the community's needs and all of the other aspects, such as how to change those behaviors, how to interact with the community, how to promote these resources and make them user-friendly. If it means getting on Facebook, if it means developing apps, if it means something that allows you to better connect with the community, those are the kind of things that I want the board and the management to be thinking about, so that the whole Department of Parks is updating itself, it's modernizing itself, and it's meeting the needs of the community today. And so these are some of the things that I want you to bring back to your acting director, that it's much more than the maintenance. It's understanding and ensuring that the management structure is in place, that plans of action are in place, and that you are also tackling this need for change of how you interact as a department with our community to better serve them. And if you could speak a bit, Deputy Director, as to, we appreciate you being here, and I would want you to be here in any informational hearing that we're having or any oversight hearing that we're having. But I do notice that the acting director is not here, so if you could speak to that.
I'm sorry?
If you could, I noticed that the acting director is not here, so if you could speak to the fact that he is not here.
What you just spoke about?
Well, just that he's not here. If you could explain to the panel here and to the listening audience whether he will be coming in later or what the situation is with the acting director.
So unfortunately, he will not be joining us this evening. Apparently he has a prior obligation this evening, so he will not be joining us this evening, unfortunately.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this really means that you need to be that person here to answer the questions we have and then take our concerns to him. So
Understood.
I know he's only been in place for a few days, but as you've known him for a while and you've had some time to talk to him, has he talked about thoughts in how he's going to strategize interacting with the community? Has any of your discussion tackled that yet?
No, not yet. He's actually still in transition, but he's talked about a lot of other things like finding federal monies for the department to get things like much needed equipment that we need, a bigger budget, manpower, more manpower for the department, even just and just other things, but mainly just on the topic of finding more funding for the department.
Very good. And we've been going through the budget hearings. I know you're very well aware of this, and we'll get to some of the budget issues later, but it's very important to hear that he has experience in looking for grant monies, and he is going to be actively looking for federal monies. We all know that the upcoming fiscal budget is going to have some major challenges to it. And so the more that our different agencies and other entities are actively partnering with one another, partnering with the community, or looking for grants, that's going to serve the long-term needs of the community. So we just really need that kind of understanding from our directors. I wanted to speak about the commission just a little bit, and then I can ask the couple of senators that are here if they had a question about the acting director or about the commission that they would like to ask. So last week, the legislature confirmed a new member of the Department of Parks and Recreation Commission. So this feels very good. You are impaneled. You've been impaneled for about a month, I believe. And now you actually have an additional member. The youth member is going to be the newest one who has joined your ranks. So for the acting director, could you tell us when the first official meeting for the commission, the Board of Commissioners, will be?
The first official meeting will be Friday, July 25th. And they will be going over, or they're going to be doing things like selecting their officers, confirming the acting director, and they're going to be given their packets, their commission member packets.
Okay, so commission member packets and so forth. And because everybody's kind of new to the game, I mean, you've been there for a while, but the acting director's just been there for a few days and is actually still transitioning. And that this is the first official meeting of this current Board of Commissioners. Were the open government law notices met so that they'll be able to act, or will this be more informational because the notices were not sent out? If you could speak to that.
Yes, notices were sent out, I believe, 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and so if you could provide a copy of those for my office, and then I also look forward to attending that meeting.
Got it.
And as I mentioned, we are fortunate to have 2 of the board members here, so I appreciate that very much. For Senator Lee, did you have anything that you wanted to ask at this early stage, or did you want to ask questions farther down the agenda?
I just wanted to point out that I share your disappointment that the acting director isn't here. I had a number of questions that I had for him specifically, and I also had sent correspondence to the department last week and then followed up again today. And so I really was looking forward to this being a much more productive session, that we could get answers to some of the questions that we had. So I'm not sure, Senator, if you are kind of dividing this discussion based on all of the different things under the DPR umbrella, or if you would, I mean, how are you? I just want to make sure that I'm following your.
Yes, thank you for that. I figured that we would go through, just to keep it all in order and everybody focused, that we would go agenda item by agenda item. So right now we're just doing the introduction and the Board of Commissioners. So if there's any input that you want to provide to the Board of Commissioners, or any question that you have, as I did of the acting director, that the deputy could speak to, and then we will definitely be getting to the other agenda items, such as the pools and some of the other issues.
Thank you. No questions.
Okay, and then Senator Moylan, did you have a question that you wanted to ask about the acting director, or any statements of welcome or questions for the Board of Commissioner members that are here?
No, thank you, Senator. Not on this agenda item. Thank you, though.
Okay, great. So one of the things that I do want us to look at, and let me, sorry, make sure it's in the proper, yeah. So we're gonna talk about the staffing pattern a bit. So I've asked all of the predecessors to this acting director to examine the management structure of the department. As DPR's newest director, I am asking the same of this acting director, and it will be very important for us to hear whether he has done that, and if not, it's one of the first things that I urge him to do, is to look at the management structure. This is a very large, this department has a very large mandate. It has a lot of elements to it. It has a lot of varied personnel to it. And so being able to manage each facet of it is going to be very important. So again, I know it's been a few days, and it is disappointing that the acting director isn't here. This was meant to be an introductory briefing where we could meet him, he could meet us, and we could hear some of his thoughts and visions. But have you been able to, Deputy Director, discuss with him? I know that you mentioned that he's interested in building up the personnel. Have you had discussions about the management structure of the department with him?
No. However, we do currently have, we're currently in the process of hiring a recreation administrator. We still have a vacant park administrator position, but I believe they're going to be interviewing the last candidate tomorrow, and then the selection will be, the process is going to move forward after that. So we should be seeing a new rec administrator in the coming weeks.
Okay, so that one, and then has there been any mention of the scheduling of putting out the announcement and so forth for the park administrator?
It's not. It's the position hasn't been announced yet.
Okay, and has that position been vacant for quite a while?
It has been vacant since November or December of 2018.
Did you say 2018?
Correct.
Okay, so that one, it seems like definitely needs attention, and please pass these on to your director that we're looking forward to his assessment of the management structure, his plan of action as how he's going to address that, and that we're looking forward to him filling that park administrator position as well.
Got it, Senator.
Yes. So are there any plans to hire any other planners or program coordinators? You mentioned those couple of middle management ones, and you mentioned that he's interested in building up the personnel. Are these staff that you've talked about that would carry out some of the daily work, or or has there been discussion that has outlined what some of these positions might be that he's interested in?
No, but in the budget that was just passed, there was no money given for more staff.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue that I want to address. The budget comes from you guys, and so the director needs to do that. We have other directors that are in similar situations, or who just thought that this year wasn't a good time to ask for something. But we need to understand what the real needs are. It doesn't mean that it will be met. The money is limited, but we need a real understanding of what the needs are. So we want a full assessment and a full ask. And then between either looking for federal monies by networking with other government agencies and partnering, or other creative means, we will be expecting your director to reach as much of that potential as possible, but we have to know what the needs are, and they have to be asked for. So please, again, pass that message on, that he needs to relook at that budget. He needs to relook at that staffing pattern, and we need a true understanding of what is needed. And then we are here to support you as much as we can, and we are also here to encourage you to find creative solutions as much as possible as well.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes. So with that staffing pattern, just some of what I wanted to mention is that the more that the department is looking at planners or program coordinators, the more that they are having those individuals that can be actually helping manage the resources, the programs, and the assets. So it is good to know that he has the experience he has, and we're expecting a very thorough assessment of what this is going to mean for middle management, for positions like program coordinators, because we need to put our best foot forward when we're talking about the community needs here.
Correct.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and talk about the park management maybe a little bit further and see if there are any questions, and then we can get to the pools is what I have next on our agenda. So in his role as administering and managing all of these resources, in your discussions with him, has he gotten a chance to understand the parks, as in the number of them, where they're located, and the types of parks that we have? Have you been able to give him listings? Have you had some of those discussions?
Not really discussions. However, I did give him all the parks, what's and just the norm, what's adopted, what's not, what we handle, what we don't handle. that's basically the gist of it. But for the most part, he's been really in his work since he's been here, and he's starting to get the hang of things. So he's working.
Very good. So it's good that you were able to give him that rundown. And like I said, he needs to have the understanding of the number, how they're being cared for, because there are different systems of management occurring right now.
Yes.
And then understanding the types of parks. And I know that you've also been working on the concept of dog parks. And so both the Board of Commissioners and your director need to know that those different types of parks are in existence and are in the works to potentially be developed as well. One of them I want to encourage. It was important for other directors and even myself as oversight to go and tour all the parks. So please encourage him from the committee to take the time to go and tour each and every park and each and every facility. I know living here, he's probably got some familiarity with them, but you have a different set of eyes and you have a different hat when it is now you as the administrator being responsible for these parks and beaches and facilities. So I encourage him to tour them because it provides that really needed level of familiarity with what is going on and where everything is at today. So please pass that on for us as well. In your discussions with him, you mentioned that he was going to build up personnel. Is part of this those that are actively maintaining the park, like those that go out and bush cut and use the riding lawnmower and things like that? Do you know if some of that discussion has centered around those day-to-day needs?
Correct. That's definitely what it's been centered around. Currently, we only have four guys on staff for as far as park maintenance, and it's they get overwhelmed, and I see it. But they've been really supportive and to the things we've asked of them, and they can't get enough recognition for that. They're a good squad. They try really hard.
I've run across them several times. They're really good guys. They're real hard workers, and I'm with you. I can't thank them enough. They worked through the COVID crisis and things like this. They were a front liner really in a lot of ways. So that's important. Now, when we had our budget hearing, we heard that there was another hire that was occurring. Has there been one more person that has been hired? Does that bring your total to 5? I heard Mr. Garcia say that there is room for 9. So can you explain what those 9 are? Maybe some of them are for cutting the grass and others perform other functions. Can you walk us through that?
Correct. Yeah. So right now, total there's 6. So 4 of them do the maintenance of the parks as far as bush cutting is concerned, maintaining the grass, and then there's 2 that do the trash pickup around the parks around the island.
Okay, and then so you're at 6, but I believe the capacity is for 9. That there are 9 positions.
One
okay.
recently.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
One of our maintenance guys just recently resigned.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that I heard that correctly. So have you discussed plans for replacing and hiring the 3 positions that are open?
Yes. Currently, we're I believe we're just waiting on the process of the employee that just resigned to have him process out, and then we'll be able to move forward after that.
Okay, and with those three, how
Process.
many of those will be helping with the bush cutting and how many of those will be helping with the trash pickup?
Of the three,
Yes. What are those positions? Is one of them for trash pickup, two of them?
so the title, the position titles are, I believe, community worker and the other is laborer. I believe two of them will be going to the community worker side, and then the third one will be a laborer.
Okay, and a community worker, can you explain for us what her or his responsibilities are?
Maintenance and the maintenance of the grass and the parks around the island.
Okay, so there may be two more people out there to help offset those four hardworking men.
Correct.
That would be good. And then one more, the laborer would maybe help with the trash pickup?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, the more that we can get for those, the better. Especially if we're going into rainy season, everything grows super quick. So yeah, the more the better, certainly.
Yes.
And then one of the things that I have done in my letter to the Magahaga, and actually in a letter to the Island Beautification Task Force that has responsibilities for developing larger programs and approaches to tackling littering and public facility destruction and illegal dumping, is I asked the Island Beautification Task Force if there's the possibility of considering some temporary trash dumpsters at the parks, at least at some of the main parks. I think that there are some other approaches that need to take place, but just to get a handle on things, maybe you could speak to some of that.
It definitely was talked about. The problem that we were having was, or one of the concerns that came up was that residents coming by and just randomly throwing their trash in there. Of course, we can secure these dumpsters, but these guys will do anything and everything and anything just to get those dumpsters open so they can dump their trash. So
Yeah.
that was and it just it wouldn't work out.
Well, and one of the things I would ask of the director and others who are tackling this issue to consider is the cost and the time of picking up these bags of trash once they split apart and the dogs get to them, or the sun and the rain and the wind get to them, or other things get to them. And then we spend countless hours picking up bit by bit by bit. So I understand that there may be an issue with residents, and that needs to be tackled perhaps in some new legislation to have more universal trash collection for our residents. But I also think that there needs to be weighed out whether it's more cost effective and energy effective and beautification effective to spend a few months dumping out those dumpsters rather than picking up 5 million bits of trash on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I would like the director to assess. And then if he needs to have the proper discussions with Guam Solid Waste Authority or the Island Beautification Task Force or whomever is correct and provide his assessment. If his assessment is it's better to do something else, but to truly consider that side of the trash and the illegal dumping issue, because it just seems like it can't continue as it is right now. So
not to mention the hazardous material that these guys throw, Yeah,
and that can definitely be a problem as well. I'm hoping that there maybe can be some amnesty stations set up, not by the Department of Parks and Rec, but maybe with the Island Beautification Task Force working with the mayors or something like that, or Guam Solid Waste Authority working with the mayors, something like this, to get some of those areas at least at least for now, until we figure out the bigger picture of how to tackle these things.
Okay.
The other thing that I asked the Imagahaganguahan is a very common strategy in governments, and the Department of Parks and Recreation has done this for other agencies, is to detail people to assist or to create relationships or partnerships between agencies to help each other out. DPR has a good relationship with GVB. GVB has stepped in, especially during Golden Week, and has been extremely, extremely helpful. And so I asked Imagahaganguahan to look at those kind of relationships. And now especially we'll have this acting director here to really look at those relationships with Guam Solid Waste Authority, with the Hagåtña Revitalization, it's the Restoration and Redevelopment Authority, when it comes to the pool in Hagåtña, because Hagåtña is their place of concerted focus. To work with these different entities like the Department of Public Works and so forth, to develop relationships where until things maybe get more stood up and better sorted out for the Department of Parks and Recreation, that we are working as a one government Guam and we are helping each other. And the department is definitely struggling and it needs help. So with that, for the director to consider whether that is a good course of action, to ask for and build on these relationships that are already existing with GVB, with DPW, with the Guam Solid Waste Authority, and with others.
Yeah, also with DOC, we had a lot of support from DOC from the parole side, and also the halfway house inmates. They're a really big help. Unfortunately, right now they're not able to assist us because they're on lockdown because of this pandemic.
And that's good for us to understand, because I wasn't sure the status of that, whether they were able to get out and assist or not. And I believe they may earn credit. They may earn credit in hours or days for doing work like this. Is that correct?
Correct. I believe it's 1 day, 1 day for 1 day off their sentence for community work, and 2 days off their sentence for construction work. If I'm not mistaken.
I think that's something like for every 20 hours or 40 hours. It's a substantial amount of time, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had gone through the issues I wanted to go through. I want to make sure that these get imparted to the director, because I do also want to thank him for taking this job, because it's a very big job right now, and it has a lot of just ordering of its structure to do. The other one I would recommend that they reach out to is we have a homeless council now.
Yes.
So we know that that's an issue. There needs to be really good communication between the Department of Parks and Rec and the Homeless Council to address some of the issues that are occurring between the facilities and the parks and our homeless population. We need to do this as compassionately, as conscientiously, and as effectively as possible. So working with the council is perhaps the best way to do that. You have GURA, the Homeless Coalition, the mayors and others who are part of that council, who can really work with DPR in tackling some of the issues as they impact DPR. But I do want to pass this again to Senator Lee if she has any comments or questions that she'd like to ask about staffing patterns or about DPR management.
Well, in terms of management, I'm not sure if the deputy director can answer this question, but again, we sent multiple letters since last year, and again in February, again last week, and again just earlier today, regarding the plans to kind of bridge the lost opportunity for our Manamku for individuals in our community who are disabled, and then also competitive swimmers who use our pool facilities for therapy, for these athletes who are training. And I know that once the governor kind of put out that declaration in terms of maybe PCOR 4, I'm not sure if in PCOR 3, Department of Public Health will allow for pools to be reopened. But once that happens, I just don't want to have to wait an additional time. I want to be able to not miss that step and to be able to just jump right in and figure out what is available for these groups of people. And if it doesn't look like the Hagatna pool will be up and running, then what's our alternative? What is DPR going to help these groups with? How can we possibly, build the relationships with Leo Palace or, these federal pools today, so that as soon as the time comes, we're ready to go and, folks can have access to other facilities right away. So I'm not sure if that's something that you've discussed, Mr. Villagomez, or if this is we should continue to follow up with the director. But again, this is something that our office has been pushing for the last several months. I know that COVID has put a little bit of a snag in our plans, but we still need to be prepared for as soon as, we get that green light from the governor and from public health, that we're able to do that. Because I know that many of these private pools, hotel pools and others are already open to patrons. So I just wanted to get your perspective from that. And if you need help from us to make those connections or push, please let us know. I just wanted to ask you what the plans are.
Right now, we haven't really discussed that part of the plan. What is it? However, as far as the pools are concerned, we haven't. I know that Director Birch has mentioned that while he was there a few times. I'm not sure how long or how far in the process he was in with that before he had left, but I haven't spoken to the current acting director about that issue yet.
Okay, I guess my big question is, will the Department of Public or Parks and Recreations be pursuing agreements with other pools in the private sector and, perhaps the military to help open up some of these facilities for residents who are waiting for the pool to be repaired or replaced? That's my primary focus. And then I know that there was a discussion also with the chair about other facilities that need to be maintained, issues with trash. And I just wanted to get a verification. Is Inarajan pools within the realm of DPR's responsibility?
Yes, Inarajan pool is our property. Okay.
Because I'm also getting a lot of complaints about that area and how, there's just trash every single weekend, and if it falls under our jurisdiction, then what I know that we had some resources directed to GPD and other government assets to have cameras placed up. But I mean, if that's a constant dump site, we need to be able to tackle that. But I'm sorry, I don't want to get sidetracked. If you had a response to the agreements with other pools in the private sector, I wanted to give you a chance to just respond to that.
I don't have any info on that right now.
Okay, well, I will be reaching out to the director tomorrow, and then again, so that's has been my concern for months, and it will continue to be my concern. And I know that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so I'm going to be the squeaky wheel and continue to be that, and until we get this figured out.
I will definitely bring this back to him tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Masi, Senadora. And, before I move to Senator James Moylan, I just want to point out as well, and we will be, I guess, talking about the pools a little bit more as well, but I've sat down 6 different times it's actually more than 6 different times, but with these 6 different acting directors, and we've looked at this issue. And so that's why I wrote that. It's part of why I wrote the governor. And I know that she cares about these community resources, and I'm glad that she turned around very quickly and appointed somebody who has what looks like a very solid background. But, you know, with all of us that have been following this, Senator Lee included, we don't want this to be a 7th sitting down or an 8th sitting down with someone. We need somebody who's going to be there for the long haul and who's really going to address this issue. I do appreciate some of what the other directors have done. They've done assessments. They've looked at saltwater pool options, and I still think that those are important to look at beyond an a new Olympic-sized pool, because they can get swimming facilities, and saltwater swimming facilities are very good for Manamku. But we could do one down south, down in Melesu. We could do one up north as well. Provide them in a very rehabilitative, cost-effective way, along with the Olympic-sized pool, because we do have those needs for the Olympic-sized pool. So I along with Senator Lee, maybe either together or separately, we will be sitting down with the director to make sure that we go over in a very fine-tooth sort of way to make sure that these pool issues are addressed, that the assessment has taken place, that the repairs are taking place, and that the new pool is being planned for. So I'll go ahead and move it to Senator James Moylan, and then I know that the board members who are here may have some interest, and we have the swimming coach here, so I can let them ask a question or make a statement as well. But excuse me, Senator Moylan, if you could go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. And for the Deputy Director, I want to say thank you for your team. You had 4 guys and cutting the grass and 2 guys dumping the trash, and you have like, is it over 40 parks? How many parks do you have, Director?
6 total.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. Say it again.
70 total.
72?
6.
76 parks.
Some of them
Okay.
are under the mayors and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I believe it's now 70 because Tagacheng Beach went to Zonia Mayor's office, and I believe the Titan baseball field and tennis courts went to Barragata Mayor's office. So 74. I'm sorry. I stand corrected.
So your team of, hopefully we get the 9 capacity, is supposed to address over 70 parks. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cutting the grass?
Correct.
Okay. Even on your best day, if we had all the Department of Corrections out there and every volunteer we could, it's not going to be a regular maintenance of it. Even when you had every volunteer possible, I just can't see how you can catch up. I mean, that's worse than a laundry that never ends. It must be very difficult and challenging. So I do appreciate it, and I can understand the frustration of your troops there, and I want to thank them for still wanting to continue to do that job.
Thanks, sir.
I also noticed, I was at the Matapang Beach the other day, and speaking of volunteers to your staffing there, there's been some upgrades also.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you explain that, please?
So United Airlines jumped in, and they wanted to do some much needed upgrades to the pavilions in that area. Working with GVB. So that was worked out through the GVB office.
Okay, it looks very nice. And
it does.
And something you mentioned earlier too, that we and Senator Kelly was also mentioning too. It's the maintenance of it, right? And if we put trash cans out there, then it gets abused. If we fix something up nice, it gets damaged and vandalized. Almost the next day. And we got the Department of. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the major problem we're having is the restroom area in the Matapang Park. They have these shower heads, so man, they'll be there today, gone tomorrow. And it's just, we're just constantly replacing these things.
Yeah, we do have the signs up that those parks are closed, and but it's the enforcement of it, and the park rangers getting out there is just, there's not enough manpower to do this, right?
Yeah.
And even if so I hope we can move a few things forward, but I'm hoping to meet with the new director and share some ideas, because we're trying to make it beautiful. We want the tourists to come on back, and we want that experience with working facilities and comfortable and safe parks. So we understand you're understaffed, undermanned, and everything, and overwhelmed, and we don't want to do that to you. So we need some long-term solutions. But thank you, and thank you very much. And Senator Kelly, if you don't mind, I'm getting dark in my parking lot here, and I'm going to have to step out, please. So I don't want to be in the dark here, but thank you for the time, and thank you for putting this together, please.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Senator, for attending. Yes.
Thank you.
And so that is why it's so important for him, the acting director, to reassess the budget, to be looking out for grants and other opportunities, and to be developing those partnerships. With GVB, it's augmented the cleaning. For a while, GVB and others, like you said, these mayors have adopted areas. I know the University of Guam has expressed adopting areas. And so for some of these kind of adoptions, they can be done in a very effective way. And it needs to go farther, though. And so this is what, part of what I'm doing is sharing here, because I've said it like 6 different times and I want it to stick somewhere. But to also build up what needs to go with it. Have that Facebook page where you're highlighting and promoting and congratulating and thanking those that are adopting, so that they feel appreciated, that they feel that there's recognition, that they have that impetus, that incentive to come back and continue doing their part in cleaning. We have to show our appreciation back to them. And so that's some of what I'm hoping that the Board of Commissioners and your acting director and yourself as deputy director can do, that just beyond the maintenance, all of the support that needs to go with it to make people feel appreciated as personnel, to make people appreciated that they're a partner program, to make people feel appreciated that they've adopted a park. And in the past, GVB has said that they're willing to have okay, I can't speak for the new president and I can't speak for our new budget situation, but in the past, they said that they'd be willing to assist with developing an annual gala for recognizing all of the Adopt-A Park and all of the partners. So, develop things like that so that it's a thriving, real program. That's my kind of pitch. Sorry about that, but I'd like to open it up. I'm not sure. It looks like Chris Duenas may have had to step out for a minute, but Dr. Rabago, if you wanted to make some comments about anything that we've talked about, or if you have some questions thus far, I'd like to open the floor to you.
Actually, no, I'm glad that the meeting is going to finally kick off on this Friday. I know the board has been kind of held off for quite some time, and we're running through numerous administrators or directors. I myself, as the Guam National Volleyball Team head coach, I also do struggle with finding a home for our athletes here in Guam. So I totally understand the situation with the swimming pool, and it's not just the swimming pool, but it's practically every sport here on the island. So, I mean, I think overall there should just be a whole strategic plan for DPR, and then kind of we follow it and we hold everybody, those that are involved, and accountable, and follow up with some continuity. I'm sure Mr. Villagomez is kind of stressed out there because imagine his role. Had like 6 bosses already, and I work in the military as well, and I get new bosses somebody gets fired. It's tough to see a new vision, and then once you get rolling, then here comes another boss, and then so he's hearing. So Mr. Villagomez, I appreciate that you're stepping in for Mr. Contra today, and I know it's a tough job. So I'll see you guys Friday, I guess, at that first commission meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And I do want to offer my support as well. You know, we are here, and I appreciate Senator Lee for pointing that out. We're here to provide support. You know, we're here to, if there's a policy or something else that can assist, then we're here to provide that support so that you build up to the management structure that you need, that you build up to the personnel that you need, and things like that. So I know that right now, after all of these months of being in limbo and going through the number of directors, I probably sound like I'm lecturing a bit, but you know, it's only because I want the best. And I know you as deputy director, I'm sure the acting director wants the best for our community. And I just want these messages to get across, because I feel like I've said them 6 different times in numerous meetings, and I just want to get them on the record. I want to get them to him. I want you to be able to get them to him and to get the ball rolling already. So it's a combination of having those expectations, but also for wanting to provide the support as we can in the roles that we play as your oversight. So thank you for being very open and being here so that you can hear all of our ideas and issues and concerns that we want to see move forward for everybody. So just Masi, Dr. Rabago, and for Mr. Flores, if you would like to make a comment or express any concern on behalf of the swim team, I'd like to give you that opportunity, or ask a question.
Sure. Thank you, Senator. And thank you, Mr. Gomez, and your staff. I know you all work hard, but
Thank you, sir.
and I appreciate the attention the pools are getting, but we're still in the same position we've been in for the last 2 years. We don't have solutions for our exercise classes, our swim teams, swim lessons, water polo, and for all the aquatic activities. And we've not made any good progress, and we're all frustrated as a community. So I recommend repairing the Agana pool for operations for the next 5 years, and then simultaneously developing a plan that will become the new major public swimming pool 5 years from now. Repairing the Agana pool right now is going to give us a temporary solution, but that's going to be a solution that tens of thousands of us will benefit from over the next 5 years. And I recommend funding the pool and recouping money from the previous contractor who was paid $500,000 for failed contract support. We need to, and we also need to hold somebody accountable for that poor procurement. And I would not normally delve into this realm, but this bad procurement led to our kids and led to people getting sick and hurt. I think an investigation needs to be done, and I think we need to figure out how we prevent this from happening again. That's all I have. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate all the work that's being done.
Thank you, Colonel.
So Jules Masi, for your input, and you made excellent points. And I am also of the same mind. I mean, we have the assessment that is hopefully wrapping up, or maybe it's even already completed. But there are ways to do this in a cost-effective way. That if we are planning for, and I don't think that there can be any other assessment other than we are at the point that we need a new pool. But there is a way to do this, and I've talked with several directors about this, is to plan for that new pool and address the issues at the pool now so that it's usable. We have a facility that's usable, but to purchase that sand filtration system that's needed as if it's going to the new pool, so that it isn't something that's just used for a couple of years and then it goes off to the side. It is something that's going to be bought for that new pool, and we're going to borrow it for the old pool for a while until the new pool is built. So these are some ideas I want to just make sure that they're out there in the community, they're on record, simply because I've had to say them at least 6 different times. So I just want to make sure that they're understood and that they're pursued to the fullest ability. let's see, and then I see that Chris Duenas has not been able to get back on, or maybe he had to leave for particular reasons. But with that, let me see if there's anything else with the pool. So we've kind of talked to some issues with the pool. Please provide us an update as to the status. I've been hearing for quite some time with different directors about different assessments for the Dededo pool. I think I heard that some repairs had started, and there have been a couple of different, at least beginnings of assessment for Hagatna pool. So for the Deputy Director, can you fill us in to the best of your ability as to where those assessments and repairs are?
Which one do you want first?
Let's start with Dededo.
Okay, Dededo. So Dededo right now is status quo. We do have an RFP going out soon for technical support to get an assessment and to also identify eligible contractors.
Okay, so are you saying that there has not been an official assessment?
No.
Because I've talked to different directors that had different engineers and so forth come in and work on assessments, but
no reporters came through yet for Dededo.
Okay, so I don't believe I have copies of the RFP, but if you could write a note that I want copies of that RFP. Because we had this first oversight hearing at the end of January, I believe, and now we all understand that COVID has taken place and that we have had a turnover of directors, but this is 6 months later after I've been told about different assessments. So we want to make sure that this one is going to happen in a timely fashion and that we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we understand the timeline of when this pool will be up and running.
Got it.
Okay, and now to move on to Hagatna.
So Hagatna, there has been an assessment made, a report. There is a report that's out. I can have it sent to you via email if you like that.
And was this done by the water engineer? I probably don't have his title correct. He's like an engineer of water or something. Was this done by the engineer of water at the Department of Parks and, excuse me, the Department of Public Works?
Correct.
Okay, good. So it's good to hear that one report came out of this. And where are we with that report? Is there a decision to move forward with repairs? Or where are we with that report and moving on the actions from that, the information from that report?
So after reading the report, I believe the decision that was made was that there will not be repairing the Hagatna pool. We're actually going to be building a new pool. Right now, I believe we are currently looking for a location for the new pool. I believe Mr. Birch, when he was the director at the time, he was currently working on that. I believe 3 sites have been identified, but that's the last of my knowledge as far as the pool.
I know he was working with the Department of Land Management. I've sat down for hours and gone over maps with him. Did you get the information you needed from Department of Land Management so that the sites could be narrowed down to, I guess maybe it's narrowed down to 3. Did we get the information that was needed from the Department of Land Management?
I believe so. So the sites that were identified, the sites that were identified was Tizen in Barragata, Manilao, and I believe Tumuning.
Okay.
where the current soccer field is, I believe.
Yeah, I did look at all those 3 potential sites with Mr. Birch, former acting director. He had also had a suggestion for Hagåtña, so I'm not sure that that one's completely off the table. It is still a central location, and we do have the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority that may be able to step in and do some work if it is in Hagåtña. I know that they have plans for a very large recreational area, a river walk, and other things. So this may be something that fits within their plans as well. So that may still be of considerations. Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to let you know I only have a few more minutes longer that I can stay on the hearing, but I wanted to, given the information that Mr. Villagomez shared, I just wanted to see if Coach Frank Flores had any feedback on any of those details that have been shared, and if there are anything specifically from Manhoban or the other swim teams that would be really critical to kind of fleshing out this decision or in further informing it.
Yes, Senator, my desire would be to relook fixing the Gagnon pool temporarily, at least for the next 5 years. If we lose that pool, we lose a significant capability to train Olympians, to do long course meets, and there's no other pool on the island that will allow us to do that. So I would like to see if that can be done. Take a look, do a cost benefit analysis, see if we can repair that pool for the next 5 years, and then try to build a long-term solution, because it will take a few years to build a long-term solution, but allow that to be the more permanent solution in the future.
Absolutely. Okay.
But I'm very concerned about not having that Gagnon pool for our island swimmers and for everyone on the island.
I absolutely agree, which is why I said that there are ways, as you mentioned, that this can be a cost-benefit analysis, that if we're going to be ordering a sand filtration system anyway, then maybe we should just be putting that one to work and borrowing it for a couple of years while the other is moving ahead, because we do need to make something accessible, and renting or having some sort of agreement may end up being more costly for a couple of years than just simply doing the repairs. So I think having that cost analysis, cost benefit analysis, will be very important for the director to carry out as he finishes up the work that was started by the people before him, the directors before him. Okay, and so just with the recreation facilities, especially with the COVID-19 issues going on, we are moved into PCOR 3, although that doesn't mean that everything is necessarily running as per usual. So if you could give us a status update, Deputy Director, about the recreation centers and the recreation leaders. If you could fill us in on if any of those facilities are open and what roles the leaders are performing at this time.
Okay, so currently the only thing we have running is the tennis courts in Hagåtña. They're operating, and I believe it's the sports complex up in Harmon. The only sports that they're doing up in the complex right now, I believe, are badminton and table tennis. They are practicing protective safety measures and social distancing for not onlookers, but for participants waiting to jump into play.
Okay, and thank you for filling us in there, because it's true that basketball and some of the other sports, soccer and football, might have more contact or might cause more perspiration and aspiration and things like that, that might have the potential to spread COVID-19.
Correct.
Is your department working with public health very closely so that you're being guided by them as to what is allowable to open up?
Yes, and they've also given us informational flyers and stuff like that that are posted up at these facilities, so that the public they are notified and they are educated.
Since the recreational facilities are closed, is there any repairs or maintenance going on in them?
Currently at the two facilities, no. I believe the tennis facility, I believe, is part of phase 1 for the CIP projects, and I believe they were there just today, if I can remember Mr. Nanetti mentioning this morning. So I believe they're going to be starting on the resurfacing of the tennis court and the fencing around the surrounding the tennis court. So that's moving.
Okay, and that's good. I knew that was scheduled to be occurring sometime around now.
Yeah.
So with the facilities that are closed and are not having any repairs or maintenance being done, are they still in good standing order from your understanding?
The complex, yes. They, according to when I met with my recreational leader up at the sports complex, he said that they were ready to go and they were good to get up and running. To limited the close contact sports.
Okay. And as you're mentioning, we are in phase 1 with the Department of Interior $5.6 million grant. And so I know it's been an issue to, COVID-19 is, if anything, is not very convenient. It's just been very disruptive, and it hasn't matched up with the maintenance schedules at all. So are we starting to see some of the restrooms being opened up?
Right now, we actually did a few final inspections on a few restrooms today. So we just need to get word on when we can start opening up these restrooms that are finished. Also, there were also there's a few other facilities as far like the basketball the outdoor basketball court at Tumuning, the one in Jigo, those are currently still being worked on. The one in Nagatnya is still currently being worked on. They're almost near completion, so we're excited about getting that back on. But as far as the rooms, we did a few final inspections on a few of them today, and we're just waiting on word to when we can open these restrooms up.
So as of today, are most of the park bathrooms closed because they're waiting for inspections, or they're still being repaired?
Some are completed, some are still being repaired, and some are waiting renovation. And
are you providing regular updates to the media and others so that the community is hearing which park restrooms are opening up and can plan accordingly?
I do not have that information.
If that can be one of the things that you pass on as well, to just have that regular communication, because the more the community hears about the restrooms opening up, the more they're going to understand that they can avail themselves of particular parks, and that we're getting that order into place.
Well, for the most part, when they come in to get the permits, we are advising them that the restrooms, if the restrooms are closed, I mean, they're closed right now, but when they do come in for permits, they are advised that the restrooms are closed.
Okay, and that's good news to me to hear that people are coming in for permits again. I think during the budget hearing, it maybe hadn't quite fully opened up yet, and there weren't people coming in for permits yet, but being outdoors is one of the things that they say is good to have that spacing, but to also be outdoors and not always too confined.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's working out for the community that way. And of course, we want those restroom and other repairs to occur as quickly as possible so that people can avail themselves of it. And I might just, and this is maybe research that you've done, you know, I know you've been there for a while, and again, I really, really thank everybody who's there for the hard work they're doing, yourself included, and I thank the new director. I hope I haven't sounded too stern. I don't want to scare him off. It's trying to create that balance between, you know, speaking on behalf of the community that we really need these things done, and on the other hand, being really appreciative that he's taking on these many, many challenges, as are you and as are the others. And we also want to convey that appreciation at the same time. But I don't know if you guys have done it yet, but to look into things like shower headless types of showers. I think other parks across the nation deal with some of these same issues. I've seen different types of faucets that can be locked in certain ways, but if they're breaking the whole faucet head, well then what good is it if it's locked? But there may be the need to start actually looking at what can provide a shower but comes straight out of the wall, so that it isn't replacing a shower head or many shower heads every other day.
Well, one of the things
yeah, yes, please.
What he found today was that you know, a lot of these restrooms have light fixtures, and you know that the parks, most of the parks are closed by 6, and he mentioned stuff like we could cost cut by saving power and using solar powered fixtures, you know, instead of having these lights on all day during the day, and you know, stuff like that. I mean, he's really looking into to new technology, so that's very good on his part.
Definitely, and I know that there have been a lot of grants about upgrades, and so
Yes.
the security cameras, the upgrades, and GPD is another entity that you've had a partnership with. And I remember, and so we're glad that there is the institutional memory to be the continuation of these discussions. I know that GPD has sat down and talked with DPR about putting these security cameras in places that serve both the Guam Police Department and DPR. So if you could be that conduit, that institutional memory that makes sure that those conversations continue and those security cameras do get put into place.
Definitely, that's something that happen to. I believe at the time, Mr. Ibanez was the one involved in a conversation with in regarding that. So I'll definitely follow up with that.
Okay, and this one is right up your alley because of your baseball background. If you could provide us an update as to the status of the stadium. I know that, I'll just let you go ahead and talk.
Okay, so I just found out today that, well, I was told that a contract was awarded to a contractor. So pending the signage of the contract, I can keep you posted on that. But we do have a contractor that was awarded the bid for the lights at Paseo Stadium. So we're very happy about it.
Yes, I am as well, for a variety of reasons. One, to be environmentally conscientious, because I believe these are kinder to the environment. They are energy saving, but also they are cost saving.
Yes.
That they will save thousands and thousands of dollars on a regular basis, I believe is my understanding, for the use of those lights. And that couldn't come at a better time, really, right now, right? When we have to be so conscientious. Yeah. So that's good news. With that awarding of the contract, sorry if I missed you saying it, is there a timeline to how long you think that will take to complete?
So
even
again,
if it's a ballpark figure, to use a pun.
pending the signing of the contract, we'll have more information on that.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to when we do.
Great. And just to sort of round out this discussion. And I apologize for this laundry list. It really would have been a nice opportunity to meet the acting director and to have heard from him, because I'm sure he's already has certain visions, certain priorities, certain ways of looking at putting structure into place, and those would all be very good to hear from him. So I will definitely be making a point to make an appointment and to go down there and have some of these discussions with him. But if you could also, since he's going to be looking at the budget, to have him look at that utility line item to make sure that that is properly budgeted for this upcoming year. It's maybe going to be a little bit harder to budget for this year since we have so many unknowns.
Correct.
But for him to make it as realistic as possible, it's been an issue in years past that not enough has been budgeted for water and utilities, power, for power. So we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. It's good to hear that he has cost savings ideas. It's good to hear that the stadium, I think if I remember right, it's something like $500 a night or something like that it costs to run the lights as they are now.
Yeah,
so
it's very...
Yeah, any cost savings to that by these more energy efficient and more environmentally friendly lights is going to be a huge benefit to all of us. Yeah, so it's good to see that that's in action, and that he's thinking along those lines already about where he can be cutting costs for the benefit of us all. So with that, and just if you could just update us, and this is the last thing I promise, if you could update us a bit about the park patrol. I know that they're working with the Guam Police Department, and we've
Correct.
appreciated the officers that have helped look over the park and enforce social distancing. Is that relationship, that partnership still ongoing?
Correct. Currently, they're still detailed to GPD. Every now and then, we're able to have them to respond and enforce some of the park rules that when we need them to. But for the most part, they are still currently detailed to GPD.
So my understanding is from the letter from Imagahagan Guahan is that, yes, they are detailed to the police department, but that in actuality, the police department is doing some of that patrolling as well. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Good. Okay, so like I said, it's kind of a laundry list for you, but I'm looking forward to meeting the director. Please tell him I said that I welcome him and that I thank him. But I do have that laundry list that unfortunately has stacked up over the months for him and you. But we're here to provide support as you tackle this.
Yes.
We're here to provide support, to do what we can to get increased budget, to write letters of support for federal grants, to encourage partnerships with other entities as you see them being beneficial. We're here to provide that support and more. So please pass that on as well. Yeah. Did you have any last comments or statements that you'd like to give? Okay, so with this, we'll go ahead and move to the latter part of the hearing. Okay, so Dois Masi, Deputy Director. So I'll just go through the formalities. If you can be here while I go through the formalities, and then we'll close this informational briefing. Okay, so as a reminder, the committee will continue to receive any written comments about today's virtual informational roundtable briefing. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagåtña Revitalization, Self-Determination and Regional Affairs, and submit it via email to office.senatorkelly@guamlegislature.org or to my office located at the second floor of the Guam Congress Building. So there being no more questions from the panel and no more statements from the Deputy Director, the committee will adjourn this virtual informational roundtable briefing. Siduos Maasi for your attendance and your participation in today's virtual informational roundtable briefing. The time is now 6:45, and I truly thank everybody for being here. I thank you very much, Deputy Director, for taking down that laundry list of concerns, for answering every question to the best of your ability, and for being here with us as we go through this much needed informational briefing, just so we can get status updates and express some of our concerns. I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Senator.
Have a good evening, everyone. Siduos Maasi.